So in February of 2012, I found myself standing on the side of a highway, Highway 58 in the Mojave Desert. It was a spot just outside of Boron, California, which, why would you know what Boron is? It's where borax comes from. There's 4 buildings in Boron. Off in the distance, there's a penitentiary. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a penitentiary off in the distance, and otherwise it's just brown dirt and green sagebrush and Russian thistle and desolation going for miles. And I'm standing at this spot just on the edge of Boron, which has only 4 buildings. And it's a spot where the highway splits from 2 lanes into 4 lanes. And I think that I'm in this spot I've been imagining revisiting for almost 20 years. And I know from the police report that I'm at least within a mile of where it all happened. The first time I was in this spot occurred after a series of very unfortunate events. 19 years earlier, I had, in 1992, I was pregnant with a child that I put up for adoption. I was 15 years old. I had her in September. I turned 16 while I was pregnant. And I put her up for adoption in December. And in March of 1993, I moved in with a family who had offered to foster me. And I lived with them. I was very smart. And so one of my best friends, Ben, his family invited me to move in with them to help me graduate high school and get into college. Ben was in all my AP classes with me. And I moved in with them in March of 1993, turned 17, and in June of 1993, my foster family decided they were going on a vacation to Napa, California, to Northern California, which is where they had moved to Roswell from some years earlier. And I didn't want to go. I didn't want to have to answer questions to strangers about how I came to live with these people. I didn't want to answer questions about a daughter I put up for adoption, or what led to the point of me even being a pregnant 15-year-old in honors classes with no family to take me in. I didn't feel comfortable, but they insisted. They were a good Christian family. My foster dad especially was concerned that if I stayed back in Roswell, I would have sex with my boyfriend. So he insisted that I go with them. So I did. And so we traveled in the minivan from Roswell, New Mexico, southern New Mexico, all the way up to Napa, California, and we spent 2 weeks there, and it was divine. Everybody was so lovely. It was my first time in the Pacific Northwest, and just the smells and the colors and the weed were incredible. And I had the greatest time. So after 2 weeks, and this was the summer between my junior and senior year, we headed home. And we were driving down the I-5, and previous to the trip, my foster family had agreed that they would deviate from the I-5 over to Barstow, California, to let me meet my biological father. So I had found out the previous year when I was pregnant with my daughter, who I had now put up for adoption. My mom told me that my biological father, I thought was my dad, wasn't. That she'd had an affair with his brother, and my uncle was my dad, because I'm from the South. And so when I was pregnant with my daughter, I had located this man in a drug and alcohol rehabilitation center in Southern California, in Barstow. And we made a connection, and we exchanged some letters, and at the time, I thought my foster family was just being altruistic to make this 5-hour round trip deviation from the I-5 on our return home so that I could meet my dad. What I found out in the ensuing years is that my foster dad was working very hard to find some family member with money that he could extract money for my care for. But I didn't know that. All I knew is that we were gonna go meet my dad. So we drive from the I-5 down Highway 58, past Boron, onward to Barstow, and we stop at the first convenience store on the outside of town. And I go to the payphone and I dial my biological father's number over and over and over again, and he never answered. I spent about half an hour trying to get a hold of the man, but I again found out later from his wife that he'd been thrown in the pokey the night before for public intoxication, so he was in jail. So after about half an hour, I gave up, and we collected snacks from the convenience store, loaded up into the van, and headed back to the I-5. It was my foster mom, Lisa, driving the minivan. Next to her was her husband, my foster dad. Behind the driver, my foster mom, was me. Behind my foster dad, next to me, was their 12-year-old daughter. Behind me was Jeremy, a cousin that we were bringing home from Napa for the summer. And behind Rita, the sister, was my friend Ben, the reason that I was living with this family. And about 40 miles outside of Barstow, right on the outskirts of Boron, right where that road separates, a man named James Robert Copeland, who had worked all day and then spent all afternoon drinking with a friend, was barreling down the road with a .28 blood alcohol level, drunkenly cutting people off in traffic, according to the police report. And right where the road splits, he crossed the median, hit my family, my foster family's van head on, and we went off just in a 90-degree angle off to the side of the road. My foster mom died instantly, and I wasn't restrained, I wasn't seatbelted, so I fell to the floor, and as she was being crushed to death, her seat was coming back onto my leg, and the side of the van was folding in on me. And James Robert Copeland and his passenger died instantly, either upon impact or because their truck exploded. I had a crushed leg. I had my spleen removed because of internal injuries. I sustained a severe head injury. I was in a stage 3 coma for 3 days. I had a collapsed lung. When the medevac team finally removed me with the jaws of life, and I was transported via helicopter to Loma Linda Medical University, I died on that helicopter. My heart stopped and I wasn't breathing. I had lost 6 units of blood. But they revived me, and I spent 2 weeks in the hospital. My foster dad asked me to move out as soon as I returned home, and life resumed. So 19 years later, I'm standing here on the side of the road. I imagined being here forever. I don't know what I want, but I know that I have to be here. It's February 2012. I'm 36 years old. It's cold. It's the Mojave Desert, but it's chilly. It's very windy. It's desolate. And I look around and I just think, what a shitty place for this to happen. And I don't know what I want, but I know that if I just stand long enough, I'll realize why I wanted to be here this whole time. But it's kind of boring. I'm just standing there. Wind, semis flying down the road, start taking inventory of the trash on the side of the road. There's an igloo cooler, which I kick over, and there's a black widow spider under it. You know, there's degraded plastic debris of various sorts, the type of stuff you find on the side of the road. And still nothing. So I'm watching the cars pass, and I start doing this calculation. I start doing like math. I'm like, okay, this car's traveling 65 miles per hour this way, and this car's traveling 65 miles per hour this way, and you account for where the road deviates, and there's a median, and how long would it take, you know, it's like a SAT question, right? What is the calculus of tragedy? What is the math of a life destroyed? And I decided it takes about 10 seconds, maybe less, for two cars to collide if they cross where I think they do. But then I look over here and I see, okay, if our car went off at a 90-degree angle off to the side of the road, it's cow country, it's all cattle land. And I see this cattle fence. And I'm like, well, we must have busted down the fence. So I'm like, well, what did that cost? Some farmer somewhere had to replace this fence. What was the cost of the EMT's wages that day? What was the cost of therapy for whoever saw this thing happen and pulled over to the side of the road to help? What is the cost of all of this? So I start doing calculations, but nothing, no emotions are coming. I'm still kind of bored and a little chilly. And so I stand there for a while and I look around and I realize all of a sudden what I'm looking for and what I was hoping to find there was a 17-year-old girl bleeding to death in the road. A girl whose memories I can access and whose heart beats in my chest, but who died that day. And I'm not her and she's not me. But I want her to be there. And I want to throw myself over her and just hold her to me. She's bleeding to death and just merge together and fucking get up and walk away. But she's not there. She's dead. And there's nothing.